So welcome back guys to Rising Coders era, and in this video we are going to see min max, how we can just calculate the minimum and maximum value inside Java. We are having a inbuilt method, so we are going to first try the inbuilt method which is inside the Java, and we are going to use it, and after that we are going to create our own method which is going to calculate the minimum and maximum number of that particular value. Okay, we are going to declare two numbers and we are going to calculate it. So first we are having a minimum. Okay, so inside Java we are having java.language.math.min. So we can just write math.min, and inside that we can pass two variables, integer a and integer b, which is going to retain the smallest of two integer values. Okay, so it is going to compare both of them and it is going to find out the smallest value between them. Okay, if argument have same values, result is same value. Okay, if it is the same value, we have just passed the two numbers and two numbers are same, then it is going to show you that result and it is same value. Parameters a and b. Okay, a an argument, b another argument, so we are going to give these arguments. And okay, so let's get started. In Java, math.min and math.max are the methods, basically are static methods provided by the math class. Okay, so there is a class, inbuilt class inside Java, math class. So from that we are going to access these two methods and to find the minimum and maximum numbers of two numbers respectively. So when I'm going to write this, okay, math.min a comma b, so it is going to return the smallest value, and when we are going to go for max, it is going to return the large value. These methods can accept different numeric types such as integer, double, float. Okay, so we can do similar with integer, double, float, and we are going to try this. See here, we are going to try all of them. They return the result as the same type as the argument passed on to them. So what we are going to pass the argument. If it is an integer, then it is going to return the value, the result inside integer. Okay, in this way. So first we are just declared the two integers a and b, having the value as a as 20 and b as 30. So I'm just going to write system.out.println. Okay, and here we are going to use the math.min to find the minimum value. It's very simple. Okay, so because it is just inbuilt and we are just going to use it. So here I am going to pass both the values a comma b, and okay, we are just going to close this, and similarly we are going to copy this and paste at the bottom. And now here we want to find out the max, so I'm just going to write the max. And when we are going to run this code, so yes, it's perfect. So here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create one string. Okay, now when we are going to run it, okay, we are having a minimum value as 20 and maximum value as 30, so it is properly defining. Okay, now what we can do, okay, we just want to see that whether the value is same at that point, what is going to be displayed as an output. So you can just see both of them have just printed. Minimum value is 20, maximum value is also 20. The next thing we are going to go with float. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this and paste it at this point. Similarly we are going to paste it at this point. Okay, now minimum value, math.min, here we have just changed alt and down arrow. So at this point I'm going to write float 1, and then we are having float 2. Okay, and similarly for double we are going to do again control alt and down arrow. So remove this. So first is double 1, double double 1, and then next we are having double 2. Okay, so let's run the code and let's see whether it shows the proper value or not. So you can just see this is for float. Okay, so float minimum value is 5.7, it's perfect, and 7.2 is the maximum value. As I told in the previous video, for float we use the f. Okay, small f. So you just have to use a small f, and for long we use a capital L. And it tells the computer it is a floating value. The next thing we are having a double 10.5 and 8.3. So you can see 8.3 is the smallest and 10.5 is more value than the normal. Now it's time to create our own method. So what I'm going to do, first we are going to create a greatest number method. Public static. Okay, let's zoom something. Okay, static, public static. Then I'm going to write integer, because we are going to just take for the integer greatest, and inside greatest I'm going to pass int number 1, and we are going to take one more number, int number 2. Okay, After that we are going to move at the bottom, and if the number 1, okay, if the number 1 is going to be greater than number 2, at this point we just have to return something, and that is going to be nothing but we are going to return number 1 as a greater. Okay, number 1 is going to be greater. Method we are just creating it. Else we can do here, we are going to return the number 1 as okay, wait a minute, number 1 as a greater number. Okay, so let's check. So what I can do here, I'm just going to create int a variable name as grade test, okay, and is equal to, okay, grade test, st grade test is equal to, I'm going to write the function grade test, and inside this I'm going to pass two numbers because I have just told it that I'm going to pass two numbers. So I am going to take 100 and another number is going to be 200. Okay, so now we just have to print it. So I'm going to write system.out.println, and in this I'm going to write which we have just created. I'm just going to make this small, okay, grade test, and here also we are going to grade test. Okay, and now it's time to, okay, now it's time to run this, whether it shows the perfect value or not. So I'm just going to run it, and you can just see over here 100 is just printed, and 100 is this small greatest value. Okay, it is not a greatest value. Okay, why it is just printed we are going to see, but before this I'm just going to write greatest value. Okay, so number 1 is greater than number 2, then it should return number 1 as it should return number 2. Okay, so here we have just make some mistake, and now let's see. So it should show me 200. Yes, 200 is the greatest number. So similarly we are going to work with the smallest number. So I'm just going to write here public, again public, then static is nothing but we don't have to create an object. Okay, so we have not created here any object, we have just created a variable inside which the returning value is being stored, and we are just going to print it over here, not going to create any object. Okay, then we just declare integer, then here I'm going to take smallest, inside smallest. Now here we are going to take three numbers, int number 1, then comma space, we are going to take int num2, then int num3, okay, num3, and inside this we are going to now create an if else statement. Okay, so if num1 is going to be greater than num2, and okay, inside Java we use 2 times and num1 is going to be greater than num3. At this point the num1 should be greater. Okay, it's very simple, num1 should be greater. Okay, so it's very simple because here, okay, num1 we have just compared it with number 2, then num1 we have just compared it with number 3, and if number 1 is going to be greater than num2 or number 3, okay, it is greater than number 3, then at this point what we can say that number 1 is greater. Okay, number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay, we are just going to compare it with 2 and 3, it should be greater, otherwise it is not going to be greater. Okay, so number with number 2 and number with number 3. Similarly for we are just going to write next else if, and inside this there will be one condition. Now we are just completed with num2, num1. So we can now here we can give one statement, we can do num2 comparison with number 1 and number 3. So we can write here number 2 is greater than number 1, or number 2 is greater than number 3, or you can do like this, number 3 is greater than number 1 and number 3 is greater than number 2. Okay, you can do this thing also, and inside else the remaining is going to be greater either. Okay, so here right now we are going to use number 2, and it is going to be greater than number 1 and okay, so and number 2 greater than number 3, then we are going to write num2. Okay, and as the one only number is remaining, so we are just going to write num3. Okay, return number 3, return number 3. Okay, so it's very simple. So when number 1 is greater than number 2 and number 1 is greater than number 3, then number 1 should be greater, obviously. Else if number 2 is greater than number 1 and number 2 is greater than number 3, then number 2 must be greater, and else the remaining number is 3, so it must be greater. So this is the case. Now here is I'm going to write int smallest, okay, smallest is equal to smallest and inside this we have just passed 3 in number 1, number 2, number 3. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to write 100, 520 and 300, and then we are just going to print it. So copy this and paste it over here. So greatest, and we want here smallest, SMALLEST, smallest. Okay, so we just want the smallest one. So here I'm going to write smallest. The variable you can just find out here. We just want to work with it. So here, okay, so we have just created something. We have again make one mistake, and that's it. We have just created here a greater. Okay, we just have to change this symbol. So for this I'm just going to click Alt, and where this symbol is there, I'm just going to click it, remove it, and just change the symbol. Okay, so let's run the code, and we will find out the smallest number. Okay, you can just see over here we have just passed these 3 values. So between this 100 is the smallest. Okay, we will change some numbers again, and here I'm going to take 300, we will take 100, and then we will take 50. Okay, let's check again. So here 50 must be the smallest. Okay, it's working fine, and right now at this point we are just going to take the smallest number 5. Okay, so you can just run it, and you will find out the 5 value is less than. Okay, so program is properly completed. You will get the source code inside the description and also notes. So we have just created some notes for this also. So it is going to return A and B. Okay, we are going to take an arguments A and B. Then this is the small function which was been just we have just rewritten for the max.min and math.max. Okay, and here there is a program where we have just created our own method also. Okay, and we have just called it. So you will get this source code and all these things inside the description. Thank you guys for watching this video, and keep supporting us. Thank you.